by not being an independent country, because if we were an independent country, there's a minimum level of support that we need to be given. So in terms of the financial relationship we would have with Europe, we would be no worse off. We probably, I can't say this certainly, would be better off, because that's the way the numbers actually work. I think one point, sorry, that I didn't address, which was said at the back of the room, which was a perfectly fair point, is that the accounts in the European Union are not maintained in a satisfactory way, and the auditors are continually saying that. I think that's something that we do need to address and do need to deal with. But on the other hand, we can't see the money that goes in, we can't see the benefit we get out. In the modern world, there are no countries that don't share sovereignty, except North Korea. And even North Korea is controlled to quite a large extent by China. We choose the people we cooperate with and we collaborate with. And the EU is the vehicle that's there and the vehicle that will support us. There are other politicians of different views, but we're quite clear that that's where we are.
Any more questions? Suggestions?
Hi, I was just wondering if I could get some clarification on your Blueprint for Scotland leaflet stating 200,000 more jobs. Because I've read this from back to front and I'm honestly not any wiser what more jobs means.
Well, it's worth saying they come from a variety of different sources. One of the areas that is going to be substantially more employment in the future is the renewables industry. We're already seeing numbers going up there and the numbers will continue to rise. We have 25% of Europe's offshore energy, mainly tidal, some wind as well, and that's going to be a creator of employment. We are ready, by having different policies in Scotland that the Scottish Government implements compared to the UK in relation to making capital investments, creating more employment. We already have the highest levels of employment. There are three different ways unemployment is measured. Employment is probably the best way. What proportion of people are actually working? And we have a higher proportion. With more money, that 4 billion a year that we would have, more than we have as part of the UK, we would expect to make further capital investments. That creates more employment. We also would wish to have, for corporate taxation, first of all, we want to get all our corporate taxes paid. I think that's a key point. But fundamentally, we can compete on corporate taxes, and we would aim to be 2% lower than the UK. That actually increases the amount of tax that we take in. Now, why does reducing taxes mean you get more taxes in? And the answer to that is because if you have a slightly lower tax regime, companies come here. That's what happens, and they pay more tax. So we can compete on that basis. We've a well-established legal system. We've good accountancy firms. We're a good place to do business. And in fact, Scotland in the UK is the area that's attracting most international investment already. As an independent country, we can do more. That's where the 200,000 jobs can come from. By the way, they don't come on the first day after independence. I mean, I think you've probably worked that one out. They come over the piece. But we've already seen the benefits of a different approach to the economy. We can do so much more if we've got full control over it. For example, sorry, this is the one, I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Childcare. We want to dramatically raise the amount of childcare. And that enables more mums to go into employment, when they're fit enough to do so, of course. And that creates more taxation that gets paid, more employment is created. So, and of course, therefore, we get some of that money back to fund other things. At the moment, we put more money into childcare, money all goes into restaurants and we don't get the benefit. It becomes difficult for us to fund it in the long term. So that's another benefit in the term. Finger waving there.
Yeah, I don't think that. It all sounds well and good, what you've just said. But we know for a fact that the education system in Great UK, Great Britain and Scotland, all over, is pretty abject compared to other European countries. The whole infrastructure of education and training, apprenticeships and so forth, are completely dismal compared to other European countries and training. I mean, 14-year-olds, 13-year-olds in other European countries speak at least one foreign language. In this country, I mean UK as a whole, I don't know too much about Scotland, what languages apart from Gaelic and Doric. The thing is though, these things, if you're going to have these 200,000 people extra or new jobs and so forth, you've got to be able to supply proper education in the first place, proper training in the second place, and proper apprenticeship schemes and so forth in the third place. Otherwise, your idea of 200,000 extra jobs is just pure nonsense.
Okay, let's just dissect that a little bit. What we've done, we're the only country in Europe that has a minister for young people in youth employment. That is making a substantial difference. We're now up to modern apprenticeships of 25,000 a year as the target, and we're about to meet that for the second year. The number of apprenticeships there were when we came into power in 2000 was dramatically lower than that. We as a country are the country with the highest number of universities in the world's top 100 per head of population of any country in the world. We have more referenced academic papers come out of our universities per head of population than any country in the world. I'll tell you what we're not good at, and you're absolutely spot on, we're bloody awful at languages. And yeah, Doric and Gaelic, fine. You know, it's not a big deal. We're not good at languages, and that's absolutely correct. And that is a challenge. Well, I'm a mathematician, and I would say we're brilliant at maths. It's just all. I can tell you. Maybe I shouldn't get into this one, but it's really interesting. A lot of people do very well at maths. We don't do as well as the Chinese at maths, for a variety of reasons. But the reality is a lot of people are topped out of maths. And the best mathematicians in Scotland are the guys with wee pencils behind their ears if you go into bookies. I'm a graduate mathematician, and I can't do what many of these people do. We certainly need to invest more in engineering schools in particular, and that's very relevant to the North Sea oil industry and the renewables industry, and in scientific subjects. But then what we've done in the way we've dealt with the college system, we've sought to move the system to a position of focusing on courses that create employment. And that move is part of the contribution that we've seen. We've seen youth unemployment fall to 2/3 the level that it previously was. Now it's still too high, by the way. It's sitting, I can't give you the exact figure, my memory tells me 16%. Right? It was
47% in Buckie in 2011.
Well, sure, but let me just talk about the Scottish figure.
21.
Let me just talk about the Scottish figure for a moment. I'll talk about Buckie as well. 16%, it was 24%. Now that is not good enough because in Sweden it's well under 10%. You know, so we're not doing as well as we need to do. Are we making progress because we're changing the policies? Yes. Now Buckie has some very particular problems. I mean, the problems in the shipyard, for example. Thank heavens Macduff shipyards have come along and taken over some of the activity there. But the big difficulty there has been lack of engineers. I mean, they couldn't afford to pay for the engineers they needed to do the jobs there. And the meetings that Gordon MacDonald and I attended, you know, this was the mantra. And that's why we need to focus on getting people trained in engineering so that they're available to enterprises like Buckie Shipyard, so that these enterprises can take on apprentices and train people up. You go down to Peterhead, where the oil industry's big, they're actually advertising. You know, if you go to Score, in Peterhead. We've got 2,000 people to employ around the world, 600 in Peterhead. They're the biggest employer of apprentices anywhere in Scotland, and they actually advertise for apprentices. And that's not terribly helpful to people in Buckie, I accept. But we've got to get things like the engineering opportunities around our harbour, because it's a great harbour, underutilised. We've got to get that going. We've got Highlands and Highlands Enterprise involved, and we've got the colleges getting positioned. But it won't be miraculously transformed. But the Scottish figures are getting much better, but we've still a long way to go, and I absolutely accept that. It's interesting, we haven't had a question we can't answer yet, and there normally is one.
I think we'll have one more last question.
Oh,
If
lady at the
there's
back.
another one. I think this
Maybe
will be
this
the
is
last.
maybe this is one
No pressure then. Well, it's just that every day you open the papers now, another bank or company or something is saying, if there's independence, we'll have to move south of the border. What are they so scared about? And if they do go, does that affect your plans and how things will go?
Well, it's quite interesting if you look at, for example, Standard Life, who've been one of the ones. In 1992, Standard Life said they would move out of Scotland if there was a devolved parliament created in Edinburgh. Strangely enough, they didn't actually do that. And it's worth remembering that the chairman of the board at Standard Life is not someone without political connections. So, quite a lot of this is political huff-puff, and it simply will not happen. I, for my sins, and I only share this with certain audiences I can trust. Although I worked in computers, I did work for a bank for 30 years at the senior level. And when I stood for Parliament in 1999 and went and talked to our chief executive, he immediately started to give me political advice about what we should do in Scotland, because he thought we could do things a lot better. So there is a wide diversity of opinion. We've heard it all before from the businesses that are saying they're going to move, that they would move if the Parliament resumed in Edinburgh as it did in 1999. Nobody moved. We've currently got the biggest stream of people coming to Scotland to invest in Scotland than we've ever seen for donkey's years. It's not going to happen if we're a good place to do business, and we will be.
Can I just add that of course you're going to see a lot of threats and scare stories in the media because they're pretty much with the No campaign. But what little attention is given to are the businesses that are excited about the opportunities an independent Scotland brings. There's even a group that some of you may have heard of called Business for Scotland. They have a website you can Google when you get home and have spare time from watching iPlayer and all that. So there are businesses out there that see opportunities in Scotland. We have business people involved in our Yes Money campaign, people like Leslie Ann Parker, who has a business in Elgin, Sandy Adam, who I work for, who owns Springfield Properties in Elgin, and a whole bunch of businesses, and recently opened one in Germany. So there are plenty of businesses out there who see exciting opportunities in Scotland, so it's not all doom and gloom for them.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. I hope we've given you some food for thought. We will be having more meetings like this in the future. And I'd just like to thank you for coming and thank our panellists as well. And James for the help. Could you fill in your forms before you